If you're an experienced pet owner, you already know that having a pet is 25% belly rubs, 25% yelling, drop it, and 50% groaning at the bill from every pet visit. Which is why Lemonade Pet Insurance is tailor-made for your pet and can save you up to 90% on vet bills. It can help cover checkups, emergencies, diagnostics, basically all the stuff that makes your bank account get nervous. Claims are filed super easily through the Lemonade app and half get settled instantly. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet and they'll help cover the vet bill for whatever your pet swallowed after you yelled, drop it.
Lately I've been thinking about that night I first saw her. It doesn't matter now, 'cause that night's just a goddamn...
Okay, be honest. Have you ever looked at a random town on Google Maps and thought, well, that looks cursed? Like the kind of place where every house has one light flickering in the window. And if you stop for gas, the attendant just says, "You're not from around here, are you?" I don't know why I use that voice, but... Welcome to Don't Quote Me, It's Probably Nothing, the podcast where we explore the weirdest, creepiest, and most questionable corners of the planet, so you don't have to. It's still spooky season, which means it's time for a road trip through the places Google Street View gave up on. These are the towns that make you say, yeah, maybe the ghost can have it. Today, we're packing up the Chaos Bus and heading to 5 cursed towns, the kind of places where history got mad, locals vanished, and the universe said, you know what? No one should live here again. And I hope that, like, when you guys hear me raise my voice like that, my eyes are open really wide when I do it. And my eyebrows are really high. Because, like, yeah, I don't know, I just make that face when I do it. But we're talking a Pennsylvania town still burning underground, a Connecticut village where everyone lost their minds, a government-seized Ohio town that whispers back, California ghost town that'll curse you for souvenir shopping, and an Alaskan outpost frozen in time. Literally. So grab your flashlight, lock the doors, and whatever you do, don't stop for directions. I don't know why I chuckled at that, but that was like in reference to the crazy bus. I mean the Chaos Bus that we're about to ride into town. Okay, let's start our cursed road trip in Centralia, Pennsylvania, a town that's been on fire for 60 years and somehow refuses to die. So welcome to Centralia, Pennsylvania. Look out your windows, guys. If you look out your windows, that's where it is. So this town has been on fire since 1962. And not like spicy nightlife fire. I mean like actual underground inferno. And here's how it started. So back in the 60s, Centralia was a quiet little mining town. Population around 1,400 people. Everyone knew everyone. They had churches, a school, a couple bars, probably one guy named Earl who fixed everything. Then Memorial Day rolls around in 1962. The town decided to clean up the local landfill before their parade, which is so wholesome of them to do. Except they thought the best way to clean it was to set it on fire. So they just burned all the trash. The trash fire spread through a crack in the ground and slipped straight into an abandoned coal mine beneath the town. And that's when things got, well, hellish. So no one realized at first. They thought it was out. But weeks later, smoke started rising from the ground. The roads got hot enough to melt rubber, and the air was just full of carbon monoxide. So by the 1980s, the government was like, well, we should probably do something. Anyway, so they tried to dig it up. Then they tried to seal it. Then they realized, oh, this fire's not stopping, like, ever. So in 1981, a 12-year-old boy almost fell into a sinkhole that opened in his backyard. The hole was over 100 feet deep, releasing deadly gas. He was pulled out just in time by his cousin, who was now the most stressed man in Pennsylvania. That was the last straw, though. So they evacuated almost everyone. The government bought the houses, demolished them, and officially condemned the town. Centralia's zip code was even erased. Like the Postal Service was like, we're not delivering to hell, sorry. But the wild part is that there are a few people who refuse to leave. They were like, it's just a little warm. It's fine. We're fine. They stayed in their homes, surrounded by smoke and sinkholes for decades. And as of a few years ago, there were still under 10 stubborn residents living there. Now the place looks like a horror movie set. Roads are cracked open with like steam rising out. There's like a graffiti highway covered in messages, entire blocks reclaimed by nature. The fire underneath still burns across hundreds of acres. Experts say it could keep burning for another 250 years. 250. So to summarize, they tried to take out the trash and ended up creating an eternal gateway to hell. Honestly, if that doesn't sound like a metaphor for human decision making, I don't know what does.
Just got a new puppy or kitten. Congrats. But also, yikes. Between crates, beds, toys, treats, and those first few vet visits, you've probably already dropped a small fortune, which is where Lemonade Pet Insurance comes in. It helps cover vet costs so you can focus on what's best for your new pet. The coverage is customizable, sign up is quick and easy, and your claims are handled in as little as 3 seconds. Pro tip, Lemonade offers a package specifically for puppies and kittens. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet. Your future self will thank you. Your pet won't. They don't know what insurance is.
Our next stop on our haunted road trip is Dudleytown, Connecticut. We actually got there pretty fast. Anyway, it's also known as the Village of the Damned because apparently Connecticut looked at Pennsylvania's eternal fire pit and said, "Hold my pumpkin spice latte." So Dudleytown sits in the middle of the woods near Cornwall, Connecticut. And if you go there, the locals will immediately tell you not to. They don't even sugarcoat it. It's like, "Oh, you're going to Dudleytown? Cool. Don't." Now, technically, it's not even a town anymore. It's an overgrown patch of forest filled with stone foundations, eerie silence, and enough legends to make your grandma clutch her cross. So here's the lore. In the 1700s, the Dudley family settled there after coming over from England. Sounds innocent enough, except rumor says their ancestor, Edmund Dudley, was beheaded for treason in the 1500s, and before he died, he supposedly cursed his bloodline. Fast forward a few generations, the Dudleys moved to Connecticut, start building cabins, and everything immediately goes downhill. People went insane, animals disappeared, lightning struck houses, several residents vanished into the woods and were never seen again. One story says a man came home from a trip to find his wife had gone mad, talking about creatures in the forest whispering to her, and she later disappeared without a trace. Then there was the family who moved in later and started hearing voices from the trees at night. They lasted a week and then just left everything behind. The place became so notorious that by the 1800s, people refused to even walk through it. Farmers' animals wouldn't go near the borders, and locals swore the trees grew crooked. And here's where it gets extra creepy. So modern paranormal investigators call it one of the darkest energy zones in New England. And hikers have reported sudden panic attacks, nausea, hallucinations, or the feeling of being followed. Some say their electronics stop working the second they step past the old stone walls. Even the police tell people to stay away. Not because of ghosts necessarily, but because it's private property now, and the owners have literally posted signs saying if you trespass, the curse is on you, which, fair enough. Then there's a group called the Dark Entry Forest Association, and I'm not kidding, that's the real name. That's their actual name. And they closed it off completely. The last documented attempt to visit the area was when a group of teens tried to camp there in the 90s. So they went to leave and their car wouldn't start. And when they finally got it running and looked back, they saw a figure standing in the tree line completely still. And when they blinked, it was gone. Now, I don't know about you, but if my town is literally called Village of the Damned and my forest is managed by something called the Dark Entry Association, I'm not even driving through Connecticut anymore. Dudleytown might not be on most maps, but if you go looking for it, don't say I didn't warn you, because some towns don't just die. They wait. I don't know why I did that. It sounded creepy. I feel creepy at the moment. And the only reason I feel creepy is because it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's not dark outside. Otherwise, I don't know what I would feel later doing this in the dark. Probably couldn't do it. But anyway, this next place is in Ohio, and it's the kind of place where every local legend sounds like it started with, "You're not going to believe this, but..." Now, here's the real setup. So back in the 70s, the U.S. government decided to create the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but basically it's a fancy park. To do that, they bought out and evacuated an entire town in northern Summit County. Now, a little side note is that this is going to be an episode I talk about later, but have you ever noticed how national parks owned by the government also have increased UFO sightings? And they kind of coincide with the ley lines. Are you guys familiar with ley lines? Because I'll be talking about that too. I love talking about UFOs though. But then I talk about it so much and then I think I see a UFO in the sky, but really it's just like a plane. But for some reason I'm not registering the blinking lights. And then I start to panic thinking we're being invaded by aliens. And then I have to stop talking about aliens for a few days because when I think of aliens, I think of the ones from, what was that movie with Mel Gibson? It was called Signs. I think it was Signs, right? And I picture those aliens where they shoot something out of their hands and then you die. It goes into your nose and then you die. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe, maybe not. But anyway, houses, churches, and the school were gone. Signs popped up reading U.S. government property, no trespassing. And just like that, the town of Boston, Ohio, which I said it was Helltown. Oh, I didn't even give the name. They call it Helltown, Ohio. But anyway, it's actually Boston, Ohio, but it was erased. And everyone's started calling it Helltown. So what actually happened is that, according to the government, the area was evacuated for environmental protection, chemicals, pollution, and all that jazz. But the locals all had other theories, and those rumors spread fast. So there was a secret chemical spill that mutated animals in the woods. The government accidentally released a toxin that made people violent and feral. There was a satanic cult living in the abandoned church that performed rituals at night. Did you guys get my break there? You know, the government releasing toxins that make people violent and feral. Anyway, 10 out of 10 for variety. So people started reporting weird lights in the forest, abandoned buses filled with satanic symbols, and one road called the end of the world. And I'm sorry if that's the name of the road. I'm not driving down it even in the daylight. So the end of the world road is an actual dead-end hill that drops off so suddenly your headlights disappear before you do. I wonder if like some slow driving and like you wouldn't drive off the edge, right? Maybe not. Teens used to race to the top, turn off their cars, and wait. And some say they'd see shadows moving behind them. Others said they'd hear whispers or see figures walking along the tree line. There's even a myth about the mutant chemical deer. Supposedly the chemicals mutated wildlife, and now the deer are massive, hairless, and angry. It's like Bambi, but from a nightmare. I mean, deers have really short hair, so I guess I could probably picture what it would look like. Hairless, but I feel like it would look not cute. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. And then there's the bus. So there is a real abandoned school bus that still sits in the woods. And locals claim if you peer inside, you'll see figures sitting in the seats. Every time someone paints over the windows, they fog up again from the inside. That's creepy. So over the years, the government demolished most of the houses, but people swear you can still see the basements, like open graves filled with fog. Ha 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 ha. Now, official historians say Helltown's creepiness comes down to exaggeration and teen dares, but there's something about an entire town bought up overnight and fenced off that just feels wrong. So if you ever find yourself in Summit County, Ohio, and you see a hand-painted sign that says "Welcome to Helltown," just turn around. Because if there's one thing I've learned about cursed towns, the scariest ones are the places the government doesn't talk about anymore. Okay, so next up is Bodie, California, where the gold rush came and went, but the ghosts, they clocked in for overtime. So Bodie was once the place to be in the late 1800s. It was a booming mining town with over 10,000 residents, dozens of saloons, brothels, gunfights, and enough drama to fuel 10 seasons of Yellowstone. At its peak, Bodie was described as a sea of sin surrounded by mountains of gold. And honestly, that kind of sounds like a dream vacation. But when the gold dried up, so did the town. And by the early 1900s, people packed up and left, and Bodie became one of the best preserved ghost towns in America. Like someone had just hit pause. Tables were still set up, beds were still made, toys were still on the floor. It was like time, just stop. Now, here's where it gets creepy. So people say Bodie didn't just die, it cursed itself. Legend has it that if you take anything from here, and I mean like anything, a rock, a nail, a piece of wood, you'll be cursed. Visitors have reported everything from car crashes, broken bones, divorces, lost jobs, and even house fires after pocketing a souvenir. I said that in air quotes, by the way. And it's gotten so bad that park rangers regularly receive packages in the mail from people returning what they stole. Each letter reads like a full-on apology to the supernatural HR department. Stuff like, "I'm sorry I took this rock, and since then my life has been hell. Please take it back. I can't sleep, and my dog won't stop growling at the wall. And I think a ghost of a miner lives in my bathroom." Like, imagine being a postal worker at this place and just sorting through cursed mail all day. And it's not just rocks. One ranger said they got a full rusty hinge in the mail. I feel like that could be another code name that someone could use for vagina. I have a lot, actually. They crack me up every time. There's one of Jim's relatives, our Aunt Nancy, may she rest in peace, used to call it a myrtle. Oh, shit. cracks me up every time. Oh, man. I gotta pause because I'm going to be laughing at this.
If you're an experienced pet owner, you already know that having a pet is 25% belly rubs, 25% yelling, drop it, and 50% groaning at the bill from every pet visit, which is why Lemonade Pet Insurance is tailor-made for your pet and can save you up to 90% on vet bills. It can help cover checkups, emergencies, diagnostics, basically all the stuff that makes your bank account get nervous. Claims are filed super easily through the Lemonade app and half get settled instantly. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet and they'll help cover the vet bill for whatever your pet swallowed after you yelled, drop it.
For a while. Anyway, so park staff even call it the Bodie curse, and they take it seriously. They've got a whole display case filled with return artifacts and apology letters, and every so often they hold small ceremonies to release the energy attached to those items. People who visit the town say it's eerily still. No birds, no sound, just wind whistling through broken windows. Some claim to see movement inside the old schoolhouse when no one's there. Others swear they've caught voices whispering their names on camera. But despite being dubbed one of the most haunted towns in America, Bodie is gorgeous. It's frozen in time, preserved in what they call arrested decay, which means it's literally decaying in style. Sorry, I had to pause for real quick because my son is going to tell you why. Go ahead, James. Tell him what you just...
I bought the rubber dick.
So he bought a penis. He bought a willy off of Temu, and he... And he opened the door and threw it at me. Which, that actually reminds me of a story. So, okay, do you guys remember back in, like, the 2000s when pure romance parties were a thing? Well, I used to have, like, pure romance parties all the time. And I didn't really buy anything from them. But this one lady who was doing one of the parties was like, oh, here's a dildo for hosting a party. But this thing was weird. Like, I don't know what the fuck it was, but it wasn't normal. So anyway, it just used to sit in the drawer unused with everything else. And I was babysitting and my son was 5. And for some reason he knew about that drawer. I guess it wasn't a great hiding spot. But I'm downstairs doing the dishes and this little boy comes running to me crying and he starts yelling and I'm like, what is the matter? And he's like, James hit me with a penis. But like, imagine like a little boy crying that, you know? So I'm like, WTF? Because I thought, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. My brain couldn't comprehend what was happening. And then I was like, come again? And he was like, James hit me with a penis. And then my son comes running down the steps, but we had wood banisters. So we had wood banisters, and as he's running, oh, hold on. Oh, man. So, as he's running down the steps, he's hitting each wood banister with this rubber dildo. And he's running down the steps and it's going dunk, 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 dunk. And then he comes running into the kitchen, waving it in the air like, look what I found, Mom. Our final stop takes us way north to a place that's not so remote. Sorry, it is so... I'm sorry. I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering from a dildo being thrown in my general direction. Our final stop takes us way north to a place that's so remote even Google Maps said good luck. Welcome to Kennecott, Alaska, and I hope I said that right. It's a literal frozen ghost town where the miners vanished and never came back. So, picture this. It's the early 1900s and someone discovers a mountain glittering with copper. Boom. Instant gold rush. Except, with copper. So by 1911, the Kennecott copper mine was thriving. They built a full town around it. Houses, a hospital, a school, even a recreation hall. Because apparently, if you're going to freeze to death, you might as well have a dance floor. At its peak, over 600 people lived there, mining day and night. And for a while, everything was great. The mine made millions. Then, almost overnight, it ended. By 1930, the copper was gone. The company sent one final telegram that basically said, "We're done here. Everyone out." And that was it. The workers packed up and left. No ceremony, no proper goodbye. They left food still on the tables, clothes still in the closets, tools still mid-repair on wood benches. It looked like everyone just stood up and walked away. The mine buildings still stand, massive red wooden structures clinging to the side of a mountain like they're holding on for dear life. And inside, everything is frozen in time. Literally. I'm sorry, I keep just laughing about the dildo. Anyway, literally because the freezing temperatures preserved everything, even the beds are still made. The hospital still has its equipment sitting out, like the doctor just stepped out for a minute 90 years ago. Now, here's where it gets unsettling. Visitors say Kennecott feels alive. You hear footsteps when you're alone, tools clinking in empty rooms, doors opening and closing even when there's no wind, and some people claim to see lanterns swinging in the dark even though there's no electricity for miles. The locals, what few there were, say the spirits of the miners never left, that they still walk the tunnel, still guard the mountains, and gave them their fortune, and then took it back. There's even a story about a woman who was touring one of the buildings. She looked out at the window and saw men working in line, shoveling, moving ore, just doing their jobs. She thought it was part of the tour until her guide told her no one's been down there in decades. And honestly, that's some absolutely not energy. The National Park Service eventually took over the site to preserve it, but they say they still get reports of shadows moving through the windows at night. And the creepiest one is that a security guard said he heard old-timey music echoing from the recreation hall one evening, I should say. And when he went inside, the piano was still playing by itself. Now, when they say old-timey music, I mean like 1900s saloon style. But honestly, imagine if it's just like early 2000s emo instead. Like you walk in expecting a ghostly waltz and it's just My Chem echoing through an empty dining hall. There's like ghosts crying in eyeliner and then kicking over lanterns like, nobody understands me. Ugh, what a time to be alive. I feel like I have to share a picture that's floating around the internet somewhere of when I was about like 15 because WTF. My hair was like a little wild. I cut it myself. It was wild. And then I had really thick black eyeliner on and I made a necklace like a choker out of paper clips. I definitely have to find this picture. I'll share it. I'll find it over the weekend and I'll share it sometime during the week on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you follow me. Okay. So anyway, Kennecott might look calm and quiet now, but it's not empty. It's waiting, frozen in time. Still haunted by the echo of pickaxes and boots on ice. A town that...
If you're an experienced pet owner, you already know that having a pet is 25% belly rubs, 25% yelling, drop it, and 50% groaning at the bill from every pet visit. Which is why Lemonade Pet Insurance is tailor-made for your pet and can save you up to 90% on vet bills. It can help cover checkups, emergencies, diagnostics, basically all the stuff that makes your bank account get nervous. Claims are filed super easily through the Lemonade app and half get settled instantly. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet and they'll help cover the vet bill for whatever your pet swallowed after you yelled, drop it.
Refuse to melt. Okay, before we wrap up our haunted road trip, let's pull over at everyone's favorite nightmare fuel gas station, Wawa. Just kidding. Reddit, where people post things like, help, my mirror blinked first, and we all collectively decide therapy might not be enough. So just a fair warning, I left for 10 minutes reading this username, and now I'm going to find someone to call this word forever. And I'm going to try not to laugh about it again. This one was 9 years ago by username. Okay. By username, I'll get it together. Poop Stain McBain. And it's titled My Dudley Town Story. First and foremost, holy shit. I haven't told this story to many people since I have second-guessed myself over the years, but after reading a story that had dramatic similarities, I figured I had to tell. Dudley Town is real and is not to be messed with. I went there back in 1999 with Greg and Dave. I don't know who Greg and Dave are, but hey, Greg and Dave, how is your friendship with Poop Stain McBain? Anyway, I went there back in 1999 with Greg and Dave after fishing the Housatonic River all day. It was late afternoon, and we could probably have a couple of hours to explore before it got dark. Back around this time, you could still park at the trailhead and walk in easily. I've been there twice, and the first time we went in through dark entry. This time, I decided to take the Bald Mountain entrance. On the hike, it got eerily quiet, and we kept hearing a dog barking that never showed, even though it sounded like it kept getting closer. We walked off of the trail near the well in the center of town and were surrounded by thousands of frogs on the ground everywhere. They were all over the ground, and no matter where you stepped, you were either stepping on frogs or having them leap at your legs. Nearby, a shadow darted off into the woods, spooking the hell out of me since the sun was facing in the opposite direction, thus creating shadows opposite of the one we saw. Between the shadow, the dog, and the frogs, we decided to leave. I jokingly yelled, "Dudleytown is bullshit. F this place." Teenage idiocy. On the way out, our footprints in the trail were freshly wiped clean and "help me" was written in the sand. I assumed Greg or Dave did it, but we were together the whole time. I got goosebumps, feeling as though something was watching us. Mind you, I've grown up in the woods, and my family had a primitive hunting cabin in Goshen that I spent a lot of time at. I'm no stranger to being alone deep in the woods, but this place just felt off. After leaving and getting home, I went to sleep and woke up violently ill, profusely vomiting and unable to keep anything down. I went to the doctor. After multiple tests, the doctor said I had a strain of food poisoning that he had never seen before. I was put on a liquid diet for a week and lost 15 pounds. About 2 weeks later, I felt better and never had any recurring issues related to it. I'm just thinking about why he included that. Now I am definitely a cynical skeptic and don't believe in fairy tales and ghosts, but for the life of me, I cannot explain or make sense of the day other than something supernatural occurred. There are no animals in Dudleytown. Little sun I'm still really confused about why he put that part in there about the food poisoning. Maybe it'll come back around. Okay. There are no animals in Dudleytown. Little sun breaks through the trees, and there are known caves that go miles below the surface. I used to work with a guy named Bruce who lived in Kent, and he told me there are hundreds of stories like mine. He told me of seeing a child run off into the woods as he drove by Bald Mountain Road at night. I recently brought this up to Greg and Dave, and they both remembered it exactly the same. Dave said he went back because paranormal activity is a curiosity of his, and more had occurred as well. Orbs and crying sounds that kept moving into the woods. Dave, as well as myself, are avid outdoorsmen and would recognize, say, a coyote or an owl. He said it sounded alien or demonic. Either way, after 18 years, all three of us remember it exactly the same. From the dog to the frogs and the shadow to the "help me" written in the sand. Oh yeah, and they both were adamant that neither of them wrote in the sand. They both asked me if I did, which I sure as hell didn't. I no longer live in Connecticut, and here access to Dudleytown has been prohibited, but there is definitely something strange about those woods. So under this story, and also back to the food poisoning, why mention that? I thought it was important to the story, maybe I don't know, something in the woods gave you food poisoning or something. I don't know. So under this story is a comment by username Lieutenant Tim. I wonder if instead of missing legs like Lieutenant Dan, he's missing arms or something. Anyway, he said, when I was in college in New England one night, the Warrens came for a presentation. The whole evening was, look at this photo, could be a ghost, and some creepy audio. After the presentation was over and people were getting up to leave, Lorraine came back on the stage and said, kids, please listen to me. I don't care if you believe anything we have said or not. Please listen to this one thing. Don't go to Dudleytown. And then Poop Stain McVeigh said that's literally why they went. They saw that Warren presentation and they told him not to go there, and so they went. And someone asked what the deal was with the whole Dark Entry Forest Association stuff is, and username Infected Uvula, which that kind of sounds like a punk band. They replied, first off, I am never dismissive of anyone else's experiences and would venture that our personal experiences are far more concrete in fact than the writings of someone else. This person uses a lot of words. The forest that contains the area in question has been called the Dark Entry Forest since the first settlers arrived. To be honest, Dudleytown is more a case of local legend that adds to the New England charm than based on any sound fact. The Dark Area Forest Association is not a new group. The association will be celebrating its 100th anniversary in 2020 or 2024. The DAFA was formed much like a HOA or Preservation Society by local residents, and they planted many thousands of tree saplings on the hill and slopes that made up Dudleytown. The hill was suffering from poor land management and was in decline because the original settlers there had clear-cut all the old growth forest and then abandoned the land for the more suitable fields around the area of Cornwall, Connecticut. Once they figured out that a rocky hilltop with no access to fresh water was a horrible place to grow crops. So I guess she's explaining that. Okay, I'll continue, I guess. So a community of somewhat affluent landowners of cottages and summer homes from Connecticut and New York planted a bunch of baby trees on a hill that was pillaged by some settlers who knew fuck all about farming in New England soil. Of course, said landowners did not want people nor their little rugrats. Oh, this person seems mean. This person seems like they got a stick up their ass. For real. Like, they, one, with all the words they're using, and two, now I have to go back and reread this with a whole attitude, because I bet you that they had an attitude. So there's no point in me reading that anyway. They said all of that stuff just to say that they agree that they think it's paranormal. Okay, so while looking for more things to share, and I came across a town that I know that I completely forgot about until I just read about it again, but I'm going to read a few of the experiences from Redditors, so here's a little backstory. In PA, nestled right near the Delaware border, is a place locals whisper about called Satanville, also known as Devil's Road, Cold House Road, or, if you're feeling brave, absolutely not Boulevard. And so I'm from PA, and I know we have weird stuff. Like, we got Scrapple, which is freaking delicious. There's potholes that lead to other dimensions, and apparently an entire forest that belongs to Satan. So let's set the scene. Satanville isn't a town in the normal sense. It's a stretch of road in Chad's Ford, deep in the woods, lined with trees that lean away from it. Like, even nature's like, no, we're not touching this. So it's called, the actual name is Concert Road, but around here or there, that's basically like a dare. Locals swear the road is cursed, the trees are haunted, and somewhere back there is the cult house. So here's the legend. They say the cult house was owned by a branch of the DuPont family. You know, the same industrial dynasty that basically owns half of Delaware and possibly my anxiety. But rumor has it they built a secluded mansion in the woods for rituals. Not the candle and crystals kind of rituals, but the kind where you show up and immediately realize that you are the sacrifice. So the windows supposedly form upside down crosses. People claim they've seen hooded figures in the driveway, and if you get too close, black SUVs come out of nowhere, chase you down the road, and then vanish. There's also the skull tree, which is like a gnarled old tree whose trunk looks like a face, and some say it's shaped by lightning, but others say it's the burial marker for child sacrifice. I don't know why I said that way, but like doing my research on this, another theory is that, so like the DuPonts, because they were like, there was a lot of inbreeding with the DuPonts because they didn't want their money to be given like outside of the family, so they kind of just married and reproduced with each other, I should say. A lot of the children would be like disabled or something, so I guess they would take the bodies of the disabled children or babies when they passed, and they would bury them by this tree, and it said that the tree would then like take shape of the skulls. That is what I read in my research in doing this to make sure I had everything right. Yeah, there's the skull tree. So drivers report their phones dying, their radios cutting out, and the air feeling heavier the deeper they go. People talk about headlights appearing behind them that never pass, and cold hands tapping on their windows when they stop. Some people even report hearing the words "turn around" whispered while they're driving. Maybe I should have whispered that. I feel like I want to whisper that. Turn around. Now, most of these stories come from teenagers daring each other, and like, you know, there's nothing sometimes to do in PA than do stuff like that. I remember in high school, people would be like, oh, we're going to Satanville this weekend. I never went. I just heard about like the trees and stuff, like going away from the roads and whatnot. And like some people would say like they would stop their car and like turn it off, and then their car would start moving or something like that. Or it was something along the lines of like, oh, we stopped our car and put it in neutral and it started rolling. Well, and now that I think about it, like I think that's what happens when you put your car in neutral and let go of the brake. I think your car like will start rolling if it's like on a hill or something. But anyway, maybe it's the DuPont conspiracy, which, yes, I am going to be talking about that in a future episode. And then maybe it's the trees that look like they're screaming, or maybe it's just that every single person who drives that road feels watched. Either way, if you're ever near Chad's Ford and your GPS says turn left on Concert Road, maybe don't. Also, I kind of want to like drive by to get a feel for myself. So maybe I'll do that this weekend and then report it on like the Halloween episode or something, if I'm not too scared. I am going to be praying like the entire time. I need to find someone to go with me though, so that I don't disappear. I'll bring my little recorder thing, and then I'll like record my drive on this road. I looked on Google Earth. I tried to like pretend to drive down the road on Google Earth, but they don't really allow that unless I like don't know how to use it. But I couldn't even see the road because it's literally this entire stretch of road, with the exception of like a very little bit is completely covered in trees. I was trying to find the mansion that they were talking about. Couldn't find that, probably because of the trees. But yeah, I'll bring my recorder and I'll talk about everything. I'll give you a play-by-play. I'll even let you know how fast I'm driving. So this story is by user Nicksplosion, which I like that name. And this was written 11 years ago. And it says, this event took place a few years ago, but I remember it as if it were happening right now. I live in southeastern Pennsylvania in the U.S., and local lore tells of a road thought to be more or less haunted, or better said, inhabited. Stories tell of a satanic cult that raises spirits and the like at a church hidden in the woods near the road of a crazed family. Some say the DuPont family, or of another unnamed family. I wonder who that unnamed family is. I'll have to dig somewhere. Okay, that has lived there for generations. Locals call the area Satanville, though as you can imagine, this is not the area's true town name. No matter who lives here, the one unifying element exists in all accounts. If you go there, a vehicle will appear and chase you out or run you off the road. It will do this and then disappear. Sort of a pick your poison type thing. Whichever you choose to believe in, something is there. The stories also mention that if you slow down and roll your windows down, you can hear whispers and footsteps just off the road, just behind the trees, and that the trees themselves are afraid of the road and will grow leaning away from it. There is also one particular tree that grows out of the side of a small hill, and the roots take the shape of a skull. I told you all this as a sort of scene setting to save you the time from having to look it all up yourself. The following is the account of my trip to this place. It was a warm October night, and me, my girlfriend, and our 3 friends all decided we heard enough about this Satanville and wanted to see for ourselves what it was all about. So we piled into our friend's Suzuki 4-door and left. The road is hard enough to find because on both ends, the signs reading Crossert Road have been removed. The road's true name due to, presumably, people like us going there where people like us are not wanted. We took the hard right onto the road between 2 stone pillars and overgrowth and proceeded slowly down the road, taking in all the creepy sights. Immediately we noticed our cell phones drop service. No bars, no Gs, no anything. That was unsettling, but hey, sometimes that happens. But all our phones did this, and we had with us all 3 major carriers. We found that the trees do indeed lean away from the road, and there are road signs with "Go away" and "Keep out" sprayed on them. One says 666, but I chalked that up to plain old silly vandalism. We slowed to a near stop and rolled down the windows to hear the whispers and footsteps. Of course, this story wouldn't be interesting if we didn't hear them. And we did. Not so much whispers as the wind itself coming through the trees, whipping the dead leaves on the ground to make it sound like hush, consonants being muttered. However, we did hear what sounded like footsteps. Perhaps maybe it was deer rustling away from the road. This is PA after all, and deer are everywhere, so why not a back road in the woods? We made it to the other end of the road in no particular hurry. We went very slow. We decided to take our chances and head back through the other way. We turned around and we got ourselves situated and prepared to turn back in. That's when it appeared. A 2-door Chevy Cavalier. The reason I told you how slow we went was to illustrate that no other cars were on the road with us, and we would have seen lights or heard another car coming. Yet this car appeared from the road behind us seemingly mere seconds after we did. Not a terribly imposing vehicle except for the million candle power brights it had and the other worldly roar of its engine. I know what a shitty muffler sounds like, and this was not it. This car had work done to make it quick and powerful. It stopped facing the road perpendicular to us, so our light beams were crossed. It revved its engine twice and peeled away down the road behind us. We were spooked, but otherwise not affected by it, and laughed it off. That's it, until it turned around. It snapped around in a hurry and was about 50 yards back when it began blaring its horn and revving again. My friend who was driving screamed, "OMG, they turned around." We all panicked and began yelling and screaming. Laurie demanded I drive. She felt I would do better driving than her because I'm a dude, but frankly, I was just as shit scared as she was, and hopped out of the car and took my place, and I hers. The car must have seen us do this because with a scream of its tires, it was after us. I took the left back onto the road, and in no time, this car was on our back with inches to spare. Who or whatever was driving the car had done this before. It made no sign of slowing around some of the sharper turns and slopes. Whoever this was knew the road well. They were behind us and laying on the horn, and no speed I dared reach on this unfamiliar road would shake them. We reached a wider point in the road and the car passed us. Like a ghost, it seemed almost to pass through the hill next to us, because while the road was wider, it wasn't 2 cars next to each other wide. It began to pull away, and I remembered the part of the story of these cars where they disappeared into the woods. I did my best to keep up, but he pulled farther away until I could only catch its taillights around every corner. We reached the end of the road, and there it was, parked near the exit facing away from us. Lights off and silent. I bravely, stupidly, decided to attempt to see inside the vehicle, but the windows were tinted, too dark to see in. At this moment, the car sprang to life, as if it were some creature disturbed, and revved its engine and honked. I floored it out of there and onto the main road. I don't know who it was that chased us out back then, but I do know someone did not want us there. Some unnamed person lurking in the woods waiting for people like us to drive by, getting a little too big for their britches. Regardless of what chased me, I know for certain that I won't be returning anytime soon to Satanville, PA. So one of the comments said that you won't find a church or the DuPont mansion there, and that it's just relatively expensive homes on one side and some farmland on the other. And then they said that they've been there a few times and it just seemed to run into cars that were people turning into their driveways, and once a group of teenagers that thought this guy was the car chasing them, which is hilarious because, like, I bet those teenagers were shitting their pants. And actually, now that I think about it, after reading some of these comments of people who went during the day, I think I'm too scared to go. I don't know. They were creeped out and it wasn't even nighttime yet. I was going to go at like 8 a.m. I mean, maybe if I just drive through the road, like I'm not like, going to go in anyone's driveway. But what did we learn today? 1, if your town's been burning for 60 years, maybe move. B, if your forest is called Village of the Damned, that's not a tourism opportunity, it's a warning label. D, if the government buys your whole neighborhood and fences it off, don't go back to check it out. And 4, if your GPS ever said turn left on a Concert Road, you throw that phone out the window and drive toward the nearest Wawa immediately. Big love to my spooky weirdos tuning in on Nighthawk Radio, and to everyone catching this on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you spiral into conspiracy chaos. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with the one friend who always says, we should totally go there. No, you shouldn't. If you listen to the True Crime Tuesday episode, then you know that the song of the week is Invading Your Space by Caught Off Guard. Go stream it wherever you listen to music. Until next time, stay weird, stay curious, go be kind to someone for no reason, and go be amazing.
Lately I've been thinking about that night I first saw her. It doesn't matter now, cause that night's just a goddamn blur. But I know if I got the chance that I could make things right. But she won't give me one.
you're an experienced pet owner, you already know that having a pet is 25% belly rubs, 25% yelling, drop it, and 50% groaning at the bill from every pet visit, which is why Lemonade Pet Insurance is tailor-made for your pet and can save you up to 90% on vet bills. It can help cover checkups, emergencies, diagnostics, basically all the stuff that makes your bank account get nervous. Claims are filed super easily through the Lemonade app and half get settled instantly. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet and they'll help cover the vet bill for whatever your pet swallowed after you yelled, drop it.